Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Junkyard Digs, and today, the return of the Mercruiser F150. So if you guys saw the previous episode, you know that we got this truck, saved it from being cut up and used for parts, gave it to my dad, swapped in a motor from a boat, hence the Mercruiser moniker, and then ripped some donuts around the yard last fall on a successful weekend engine swap attempt. Now we have this thing down at our shop. We've got a big old pile of parts for it. We're going to put brakes on it. We're going to finish up everything under the engine, converting it to an automotive application instead of a boat. Get this thing running and driving reliably so Dad can take it home and have a truck to drive around. And if I know anything about him, probably start doing body work on it. So without further ado, let's get this sucker up on our bend pack 10,000 pound two post and start doing my favorite thing in the world, brakes. That's what I do for a living, is I just talk to myself and fix brakes. All right. Bend pack's got her up in the air for us. We're missing a couple components here. Where are the brake shoes? No wonder the brakes didn't work. I didn't take those off. They've literally never been here. This one's got pads, and you can see that this one has made contact in the past. Holy shit, that's a big ridge up there at the edge. I'm sure the old RL 8500 can take care of those. Look at this hose. Just done. Change your brake hoses, people. Our axle doesn't have a lot of play in it, so that's good. Got a good healthy 9-inch in the back of this truck. When it comes to brake drums, you got two options. One, spend about 3 hours and try to get this off if it's really stuck. Two, since it's cast iron, beat the shit out of it with a big hammer, crack it in half or get it to distort enough to get it off, and go buy a new one for 35 bucks. Which is what you should probably do anyway, because by the time you get this off, it's distorted and it's just wrong. We do have really good looking pads, like brand new. On the other hand, we got a lot of black grease type stuff in here, which means that this wheel cylinder's been leaking. So for comparison, here's our driver's side. Note the bright kind of orange tint to all the dust, or just brake dust. I'll come over to our passengers again. Completely black. That wheel cylinder right there is leaky. Alright, so Dad's gonna take care of the front brakes on this truck. I'm gonna tell you guys all about drum brakes on the rear, because it's been a while since we tore apart a set of drums together. I just did fronts on this exact style truck a couple weeks ago with the plow video. You can go check that out up here. We talk about the inner workings of a four-wheel drive hub, and I show you how to remove and reinstall the front caliper that Ford uses, which is a good bit different than GM or any other brands. The Fords are a little weird. Good design, just a little different. A lot of people are scared of drums. They think they're complicated. I'm here to show you that they are not. So let's go ahead and go through these suckers together. You're gonna need a couple tools. This is not one of them. Okay, like I was saying, there's a couple tools you're gonna need. Channel locks, and a screwdriver, and most importantly, a pair of safety glasses. This is for disassembly. There are more for reassembly. So, step one, grab your 10-year-old channel locks that are held together with electrical tape and hope, and grab this top spring right here. Oh, before we take this off, one thing I need to say. Still to this day, I'll sometimes get ambitious, make this mistake, and it bites me in the ass, but do not take both sides of your brakes apart at the same time. The reason is there is a specific way that this all needs to go back together to work, and it's not a bad idea to reference some photos in a manual or on the internet to make sure what you're taking apart is already correct, because there's a chance someone else was in here and it's totally wrong. So maybe you reference some online photos as well, but don't take that side apart until this side is 100% back together and working, because that side will then be your map of how this side is supposed to go back together with a couple pieces that are mirrored. There's orders and directions to every little piece. So if you have one still set up, you can reference it. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get this top spring off. Now that our forward spring's off, we can go ahead and grab Our rear spring, do the same thing. Another important tip, don't throw any of this away until you can drive the truck around and make sure everything works, because I've seen it before and I'm gonna see it again someday for sure. Sometimes what you get in the mail or at the parts store is either manufactured wrong or the wrong part or just a little weird. And the old one still works and fits better. With that being said, no, you do not have to replace these springs every time, but it was like 14, 15 bucks for a hardware kit for the whole rear axle. And sometimes that's just worth the peace of mind. Brakes are not something I take lightly because, you know, they keep you alive. And more importantly, keep other people alive. The repercussions you get for your own stupid decisions are karma on yourself, but if you kill someone else out on the road, not cool. All right, next up, take your pliers. You got 2 pins right here and right here that are going to be holding everything together. This has a plate on the front that holds a spring with tension against the shoe. A pin comes all the way through the backing plate and holds that guy on. Grab him with your channel locks, press him down, turn the pin with your finger on the back, and it'll all come out. Look at that, it's broken. So right there, I would need a new hardware kit. Good thing I have it already, saves me a trip to town. Same with this side, press, turn, and voila. There's your pin, your spring, and your turnbuckle. Just like that, we're ready to strip these down. Going on is a few more steps, but coming off is pretty damn easy. I'm just gonna grab here, pull this guy out a little bit, grab this center bar. You're gonna need to keep this guy. There's a couple pieces that you will not get with your new brake kit. That is one of them. Pop this guy off over here. Usually these auto tensioner cables are already broken. It makes this a lot easier. All right, got him out of the way. Keep this guy right here and let everything hang down. Now, I say hang down because it's going to be hanging from this bar right here. This is your emergency brake bar. You need to keep this as well. On the back side, there'll be some form of a pin, one of these spreader clips right here that I'm gonna need to spread apart and then push this whole piece out and we'll be good to go. So let me make that happen. All right, so I got our emergency brake bar off. Keep this, keep this, keep these 2 guys, and keep this guy. And if he's got a plate on him right here, keep that as well. So you'll have 5 or 6 pieces that you need to keep from your old brakes. I'm gonna go clean all these up on the wire wheel and then clean 6 points right here with a little wire wheel. Clean this guy up here, put a new wheel cylinder in, and we'll be ready to go back together. Easy peasy. All right, so like I said, we need to clean up these 6 points. I just got a wire wheel on the end of my drill. I'm gonna do just that. The reason we do that is because these are slide points for that shoe, and these need to be properly cleaned and lubed, so I will put NICs on these before they all go back together. All right, up front, Dad has his calipers off, and he's got his lines off. He's putting the new lines on right now. Things are going good there. I got my new wheel cylinder on. Broke the line. I'll make a new one, no biggie. Just one less thing to worry about anyway. I'm gonna get some NICs on these 6 slider points like I had mentioned. And then I'm gonna put some right here. I need to NICs up these 2 pins. They go here and go there. With that, it's time to get our shoes ready. All right, when you get these out, a couple things you wanna look for. First thing, are these symmetrical? Are they identical? Are they the same part number front and rear? All these holes in the exact same spots. There's our difference. So that means this guy's our front. Kick the other shoes the other side so they don't get confused. Take our rear. Grab our emergency brake bar and our NICs. Get a healthy dose on this whole upper surface around the pin. Down to about here. Get some in that spot right there. A little bit down here. And go ahead and get ready to install him into our shoe. Which, to do that, I need to go get my hardware kit. Now, every car is different. And you want to go through here and make sure, just like with the shoes, that all these are symmetrical. And that this left is the same as the right. One of these might have a turn the other direction. Usually they're different colors if that's the case, but not always. So keep an eye out for that. Usually I'll go through, take out exactly half of this, and put it by my feet. take the other half and throw it in the box with the other brake shoes I kicked across so I don't get anything mixed up. This guy's gonna go right here on the back side. I'm gonna stick him in and wiggle him back and forth a bit, make sure he moves freely, and take our pin and slip it in right here. Some of these have nylon between the emergency brake bar and the shoe. This one does not. So heck it. Once I've got that on, I grab it with my pliers and crush him down so he doesn't come off. At this point, open this sucker up, pull your spring back on your emergency brake cable, feed it from the front, and it's good to go. This is the first step to hanging all this, and now it's just springs and retainers. One of them, two of these, one of them, one of those, another one of them, two of these, one of that, and last but not least, one of those. That leaves me exactly half of my hardware in the bag. I'm gonna tie it up so I don't lose anything and send it over to the other side of the truck so I don't get anything mixed up. At this point, we need to put a couple more of our pieces we cleaned up in place. This guy goes there. He's gonna fall off 1,000 times, that's okay. And you got this guy, goes right here. Back to the anti-seize. Oh boy. You want some here, some here. This weird oval rectangle spring goes right here. And then this will continue to be a pain in your ass for a little bit, so set it aside until we get our rear shoe mounted. Speaking of which, we're gonna need this guy here and a pin. I'll get my permanent pliers just like that, so that it holds him in place. Stick your pin through the back hole, stick it through the appropriate hole in the shoe, put your spring on, and take your permanent pliers with the cap, and use that to press it all in. Give it a little spin with your thumb on the back side. That's it, it's on. That's really all that takes. Then you grab the most fun little piece of the whole goddamn thing, the e-brake bar. Oh shit, wait, is it this way or this way? Hang on, let me go look on the other side. Okay, it's spring forward. Take our bar and put him right in the groove of that e-brake bar. Now for the front one, all we have to do is line up this pin on our wheel cylinder, the slot in the bar that we just installed, and this hole right here for our retainer pin. Done. Now I'm gonna line up the slot with the spring here. Oh, yep, calamity. And line up this upper pin right there. I gotta wonder if that e-brake's pulled. It is not wanting to go together. Well, let's get some more hardware in here and then we'll find out. How about that? And we need the cable from our adjuster kit. Now remember, there's a left and a right for these. See that R? That's gonna be our right side, which is not this side, Kevin, you big idiot. All right, from your adjuster kit, there's two things you need. You need this cable. He needs to go on the very first before any of the springs go on. And then this dealio goes right here. If you're having trouble getting him to stay in place, put some anti-seize on the back, it'll help glue it in place. And then this spring. Run the cable over him, grab your magical screwdriver, and slap everything in place. And yes, I know they make a tool to do this and blah blah blah. I had one once, I hated it, I threw it away. I'd rather use a screwdriver. Here we go. Like I was saying, screwdrivers are awesome. Bam. That's all it takes. All right, our rear brake shoe is on. This pin from the wheel cylinder is in place here. Our spring is set. This guy will go back here eventually when we get to that. Everything's good. Now it's time to make sure this bar goes in place on the front shoe and we can get everything happy up here. Big spring time. Here we go. Go back into your hole, little buddy. There we go. That's what we want to see. All right, shoes and hardware up top is on. All we got now is the self-adjuster stuff on the bottom. Let's make it happen. All right, now we're gonna be working on the bottom of our shoes. Don't worry, once this is done, we're gonna go have a lot of fun in the engine bay and do some burnouts and fun stuff. But this is the educational aspect of the show, so stick with me, we're almost done. This is your self-adjuster wheel. Grab your paintbrush of copper goo and get some right here on the threads, and get some right here on the thimble on the end, and get some right here in the crevice of this guy, and the crevasse. and then the crevasse of this side. Now you're done with the anti-seize, you can put it away. We'll screw our star wheel all the way back in. Remember, these are side dependent. One of these is reverse thread, one of these is regular thread. Don't get those mixed up, or else your brakes will be constantly loosening themselves / not working at all. I've seen it before. It's the big sad. This kit comes with a little thrust washer that goes right here. Now we're all lubed up and ready to go. This guy's going to live right here between these shoes, which I still think the e-brake is pulled. And then this guy's gonna go right there. At this point, we have one spring left. And this is the tricky one if you get things out of order. You're gonna put him on the shoe and then put him in that little metal tab that has an L on it because we're on the left side. Double check that while you're here. Now the fun begins. There are a few ways to do this. This seems to be the easiest one I have found. We're gonna put all of our tension into our system using our adjuster cable. Hook him up right now and get him over this ramp right here. What this does is it allows you to take advantage of the lever action of this bracket right here, and you can use that mechanical advantage to your advantage instead of just directly fighting a spring in a head-on fashion. And just like that, our brakes are done. All we have left to do at this point is to adjust our star wheel from the back side, set our shoes within the drum, and we will be happy. And all we're gonna do is put our drum on when it gets here and run this star wheel out, expanding these shoes apart until we can feel it drag just a little and then maybe back it off. And when you feel it touch, shove your screwdriver in here and push everything forward, and then push everything backwards and make sure you're not just feeling resistance on one side and that you're centered. Basically, once this is all done, go drive your vehicle, and if you have brakes but the pedal travels a long ways before they're there, they feel soft, come back and tighten these up a little bit. That adjustment eats up the rest of the pedal play and you're good to go. All right, it's been a couple hours. Let's do an update. We've got our fronts turned. Everything came out beautiful. Thank you, Ben Pack, you beautiful bastards. We got our rear drums here from O'Reilly's. New wheel seals, the ones we ordered were the wrong ones. Dad's got everything good to go up here. Had to file the powder coat off these once again. We've also decided to replace our rear brake line because even though it does hold fluid and pressure, I don't think it's going to do that for very much longer looking at it. So I've got some, might as well put it in, and then there's just everything up front looks great. So if we replace that piece and everything on the axle, then we have a whole brake system that we trust 100%. I've got this side buttoned up. Dad's got our soft line in. He had to take off for the day, so that's why I'm referring to this past tense. He's got a new vent for the axle and our soft line for the rear end. We got to do shocks, replace that. I'm in the process of doing this right here. But Mook just walked in with a box of goodies from the P.O. box. We've never done this on camera before.
We have shirts that say heck.
Is there a name on this?
I can't find a name of who they're from. So to whoever sent these, thank you so much. I'm going to wear it every single day.
Kevin, I noticed your affinity for pliers. Maybe try these out. In the meantime, keep the great content coming and subscribe to both Mook and you and enjoy the dynamic. Both of you should try to ignore all the put a ring on it comments, get married when you're ready. The important thing is to keep each other happy. Good luck on the channel in the future. I'll be watching in the most uncreepy way possible. Brian. Thank you, Brian. I will definitely. These got some teeth on them. Uh-oh.
Here's to the spicy Nova from Matt. Thank you, Matt. Oh boy.
Another?
Wicked Reaper hot sauce. Oh, it's from Matt as well. Thank you, Matt.
I don't know if I like you, Matt. Not gonna lie. This sounds like pain and suffering for Kevin.
Kevin, heck off. I see something really, really yellow. A hat. They say our names on it. Oh my god! There's one more thing.
Oh, wow.
I love my shirt and my hat. I don't even care what happens the rest of the day. This is amazing.
If you guys want to send us stuff, you can. The PO address is down in the description. With that being said, there's something I have been forgetting to say for months now, and I feel awful about this, and I owe someone a huge thank you. You're literally able to see what's happening right now, specifically through our lens because of one man who sent me an extra lens. I literally intended to do this like on the very first video, and I keep forgetting every single time. Watch Wes work. Send us his extra lens. He uses a different lens. Thank you, Wes, for allowing people to watch us work. So, if you guys haven't heard of Watch Wes work, he has a YouTube channel that does heavy equipment and stuff like this. Similar flavor to what we do. He's a great channel, great guy. Go give him some love right up here. Here's his channel. Thank you again, Wes, and I seriously apologize for just forgetting about that one for like 4 months. Alright, we're back, and as you can see, we have a new master cylinder. We have new front brake components. We have all new rear brake components. We have all new rear brake lines, all the way from the wheel cylinders all the way forward to the proportioning valve. So every line on this truck has been either checked or replaced, and we're good to go. We have all new rubber lines, all new pads, calipers, wheel cylinders, master cylinder, everything. Our brake system is 100% good to go and properly functioning without fighting me. So that is awesome. At this point, it's time to start working on this debacle. Get this thing in a configuration where it's more suited to be in a truck than a boat. Which means we need to change our water pump so that we have heater core hookups. We need to change up our mounting system for our alternator, finish up the mounts for our power steering pump so that those aren't floppy or completely in the wrong spot, or if they made a super long V-built, they could maybe, you know, all in one, but I know that won't work. There's not enough contact. We need to get an exhaust system in this truck, take care of some last minute stuff that we did just to finish some things up, get some radiator hoses on it, get a fan on it. Never even thought of that one. We need to put a whole different ignition system on and get a battery in place. Basically, like I said, just finish everything in here and then get some tires and go rip some donuts. As you may notice, for the first time, you guys can see under this hood really well. All this is made possible by the light stick. This is a product made by BenPact, our favorite equipment company. It's got magnets on each end that rotate 180 degrees. It has a rechargeable battery and a swiveling light bar with two brightness settings, a 1, a 2. You can plug them in and they just stay on indefinitely. It also comes with this foam wrapped, soft-ended, extendable spring bar for hooking to the end of hoods, which doesn't work the best on old cars since it doesn't reach, which is where the magnets come in. So I haven't found anything we haven't been able to put this on yet. They're pretty god dang awesome. You can check these suckers out on BenPact's website. It is the Light Sticks by BenPact. And while you're there, check out all the other incredible equipment they have for you guys to take a little gander at over there on benpact.com. So without further ado, I am going to spend a little bit and try to get back to the point we were when we last had this thing on camera and see if I can remember what else I've forgotten to do. Alright, I just chugged the whole freaking monster. Let's get this show on the road while I am taking stuff off of here and figuring out where we left off particularly. I want to tell you guys a little story about what just happened off screen. I found these old registrations to the truck inside sitting on top of the seat. So I grabbed some of these, went into the computer, looked up the name that's on them. I'm not showing it to you. Pulled the name and address up on the website, got a phone number from a online telephone book essentially, and gave the guy a call. He answered. I talked to him for a little bit. He said, yeah, I used to own that truck. I actually sold it in '97. So the last one of these is from '97. So he didn't have a title, but he was more than happy to give me a name, phone number, and work information for the guy that bought the truck. I got a hold of that guy, actually just called where he worked, and he happened to be at work. Said, hey, can you put him on the phone? They're like, sure. Side note, this is what's so great about being in the Midwest, is you can just talk to anyone. They're all so friendly. But I talked to him on the phone, I'm like, hey, I bought this truck that I think you used to own. He's like, yep, I sure did own it. I'm like, do you have the title? He's like, yeah, I think I do actually. If not, I'll go down to the courthouse and get a reprint. So, major problem solved. Like the big problem on top of all the mechanical stuff this whole time has been, we don't have a title. But now we do. Probably after this video, we'll get a title for this thing and it can legally be on the road. With that being said, I did get a bit of history on the truck. Like I mentioned, he bought it in '97, drove it for a while. Used to have a topper on it, like from new. It had a fiberglass topper, which he still has. He said he would drive this all over the place, and he got a different job in Fort Dodge, and the topper was hurting the visibility, which if you know anything about Fort Dodge, Iowa, visibility is a good thing for cars and people. So he took the topper off for a little better visibility when driving around in the truck. And the next day, the engine broke the crankshaft. So it didn't know how to drive without that topper, as he put it. So yeah, there is the end of the story for the truck at its first shot at life. Now you guys are watching the continuation of the beginning of the story of its second shot at life. Let's make it happen. Alright, I've created ourselves a list to get this sucker up and going. I thought I would have had 2 weeks to make this video, but I just got an email from today's sponsor reminding me that I had promised them a deadline, and it's this week. With that being said, did the dads help yesterday? The whole brake system went really well, and that is done. That is the big thing. The last big thing is exhaust. Everything else from here on out is small. Over here we have our parts motor. I think I can harvest this bracket, as well as, looks like I got a little bit of straightening to do. But that will let us utilize our original alternator mount, which should offset it to where it needs a different pulley to run the alternator than the power steering, and give us 2 belts. Update time. Down here, I've started taking our water pump off. I've been pulling our bolts out and sticking them in our bolt stir. This is a chemical resistant, heat resistant rubber mat with stretchy holes in it that you can use to organize all of your hardware. These things are awesome. I've been using them for about a month now, and they are freaking excellent for when you have a whole bunch of random sized bolts that you need to keep organized. Instead of cutting a piece of cardboard, you just draw out your pattern in here. So, for example, yoink, yoink. I know this one's the top on the water pump side, and I know this one is down and to the left, which matches this one over here. So now I can take this anywhere, throw this anywhere, and my bolts will always stay in the correct spot. These things are freaking awesome, and Bolster is a small startup company here in America. So what we're doing is helping them out and helping you guys out by offering a 20% discount code right now. Head over to bolster.com, use the code JYD20 for 20% off anything on their website related to these suckers right here. They're awesome, seriously. I freaking love these. I wish I had about 100 more for every project. Alright, we've got our marine water pump off. Here's our automotive water pump right next to it. You see this one's just a little bit smaller backing plate to everything here. Here's our gasket alignment for the automotive. Fits our gasket alignment for the marine perfectly. So as you can see, all this really is a water pump with an outlet to the bottom left. Here's your heater cord versus an outlet to the bottom right. And seeing that this has like a Ford casting number, this still might even be a car or truck part. I know Ford's water pumps do get funky. There's some that are reverse rotation. Keep a good eye out for that. Especially if you're swapping in a motor that was previously EFI, you're gonna have to change timing covers and water pumps. Timing covers, depending on if you want a mechanical fuel pump, because they do not have one. There's, oh god, let me find a picture. There's that many different Ford timing covers, and as you can see, your old school one just like this, and then reverse rotation for serpentine. There's one with sensor, one without sensor, with or without fuel pump, la-di-da-di-da. You can Google this picture by searching Ford 302 timing covers, but this is information that is really good to know, because when you're swapping in 302s, be it from a fuel-injected vehicle like the 787 right here has, or a marine application, all of your accessories and everything should bolt on to each variation of engine just fine. Like I just showed, we're putting all this car stuff right on a marine engine with no problems. It's got an Edelbrock intake, it's got Mustang headers. I put a truck accessory right there. We still got the boat timing cover, the cast iron timing cover, which is kind of cool. Ford did change their engines throughout the years, but they were only to get better each time. With that being said, if you're sourcing a 302, the best thing to do is find a roller cam block. What I mean by that is that the camshaft is a hydraulic roller camshaft. The block has taller lifter bosses, and it has detents for the spider gear bolts. You can convert flat tappet blocks over to a roller. It's way more expensive. It's not any thread engagement for the spider spring thing. It's just a mess. So if you're looking for a Ford engine and you want a roller lifter, which gives you the advantage of not having to put zinc in your oil and a little quieter drive line and don't have to do cam break-ins, you want to go find yourself a roller block, which will be, oh boy. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself with a voiceover right now. Yeah, I was wrong. It was 1986 and up in cars. With that being said, if you're looking for a flat tappet block, you guys saw what this thing did at the end of the last video. I would search for a Marine 302 or 351. The long block is identical. This 302 runs an HO pattern, which didn't come out until 1982. The HO pattern matches the 351 pattern, so that's a hell of a motor right there. I'm excited to see what this thing does when we can get it out in the street and punch it. They are a little harder to come by, and a lot of times they might be stuck or damaged from water, but the two that I've dealt with now, both of them were stuck starters. It wasn't the engine, it was the starter. If it's not the starter, there's a good chance that it's the drive bearings for the boat output drive spin the prop thing. I don't know a lot about boats, I know a lot about engines. Moral of the story, if you can find one of these, you can usually sometimes pick them up cheap because someone bought it for just the trailer that's under the boat, which was this instance. Paid $100 for that, bolted it in, and we've got a screamer. All right, so real quick, let's talk gaskets and Ford water pumps. Here's your gasket, right? If you've seen us put gaskets on a vehicle on this show in the past, you know what I'm about to do. I'm about to take RTV, put it on my two slightly cleanest fingers, and I'm going to coat the entire gasket, just like this, until the whole thing is sticky. Like if I threw it at a flat surface like a fender, it should go and stick to it like a pickle on a window. When I do that, it's going to account for any irregularities in the surface, on the pump, and on the timing cover, and it's going to help things seal. On a Ford, you have these two holes and these two holes that go through into the water jacket. So when you put those bolts in, you want to put a lot of RTV in that hole with the bolt so that those threads actually seal, or else you will have a water leak from the bolt. Ask me how I know. I've made that mistake before. By the way, if you ever see a vehicle with the red RTV sticking out anywhere except for the exhaust, usually to even include the exhaust, run. Run away. There are specific types of RTV for specific uses. We're actually going to run the black today because that's just what we run on water pumps. We use gray RTV on intakes because gray is high torque and it seems to just deal with the bull crappery that goes on in intakes on these Fords a little better. Thank you, Luke, for this information back in the day and still currently on his YouTube channel. You can check it out, Thunderhead 289. I'm going to finish greasing this up, but moral of the story, red RTV, run. Never fails, those are the same guys with the 350 Chevy that runs on 5 cylinders that brag about their double hump heads. Their 750 carb on a 350 motor. Okay, this thing's nice and ubery goobery. Let's get her in there. So as you can see, here's the other advantage to the RTV on the gasket method. Just stick that sucker on. It's not going anywhere. Now we're going to throw some RTV down these 4 holes and get our water pump sent home. Well, this is going. I'd be lying if I said well. This bracket was bent to hell. I kind of found the shape it's supposed to be. I used my 77 for reference, thankfully. I got a spacer that I got to figure out back here. Everything's not quite the right angle. Scott stopped in. He was walking by. I saw the lights were on. I've got a problem with the harmonic that's on it right now is a 3-bolt, which I didn't know existed. And these are 4 bolts, so I've marked out. We're going to drill these out to 3. But the fun continues.
Always.
Always. We might be back in the morning. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the next morning. Dad's here. Hopefully we're going to wrap this thing up today. As you can see, I've got our accessories done. They're going to work for what we're doing today. I did learn a few things, specifically another alteration between the marine motors and the street motors. If you know anything about Fords, you know that there's multiple water pump pulley sizes and multiple lower pulley sizes. And sometimes these like to touch and not play well. And this one is just, and I mean just, not touching, and I'm still a little afraid that it might at times. The reason for this is the main difference I overlooked. The harmonic balancer itself is different. Besides being just a 4-hole instead of a 3, it has this standoff right here. The other one is flush with this face. This standoff pushes our pulley set like a 1/2 inch out, or whatever that distance is. Which means, as you can see here, our alternator aligns with the front pulley, and our power steering, water pump, and everything align with that weird middle pulley, which isn't really supposed to be a pulley, it's supposed to be a spacer. They're supposed to align with this guy back here, so everything is off one pulley. And if they were in the correct spot, this clearance issue would not be, well, an issue. Fords and accessories are always a really fun, terrible time. There's a whole bunch of different styles of mounting for alternators, and a whole bunch of different styles of power steering pumps and mounting styles for power steering pumps. Okay, so if you guys saw the last episode, you saw that we had to take the distributor out and change it for a points distributor because our Durspark system was not working. I hopped on Summit yesterday and threw an order in for some plug wires, a coil, and a Pertronix distributor, the big key point here. 1 day shipping on it was only $30 and it showed up the next day. That was incredible. I love that. Summit, you guys are awesome. But I ordered all those because if you remember, like I said, we had to put a points distributor in this to make it run. Obviously we had to take that back out and put it in the car we stole it from, which left us without a good distributor. We still have the DuraSpark, but it is currently right where it belongs, in the trash can, because A, it doesn't work, and B, they're terrible. I'm going to talk about this in a second with a bit of ignition tech, but just know right there is your rotor, and that brown thing is your reluctor wheel, and that plate in the bottom with the square, below all that, right here, is where all your weights and springs are. And those are very important to get to for adjustability, so you can actually make some power with your engine, or make it run right if it's being stupid. And those do not let you do that. You literally have to get a puller and spend like an hour to do that. Where Pertronics, it's right on top. When it comes to buying a distributor, you want to spend some money. You want to avoid anything off of eBay or Amazon. I cannot stress this enough. Do not buy a cheap distributor. That was $220. Really not that bad for the amount of power we're gonna make out of this and have reliability. I'll pay that any day of the week. But do not buy the $70 distributors. They are trash. Stock GM HEIs most of the time, also trash, and I'll tell you why. They're a lot better than the DuraSpark, but let me grab a tripod and my teaching stool, and we'll talk a little tech. Okay, so distributors. Why did I just say this is something you want to spend money on? This right here is 80% of how well your engine runs, is ignition timing. 8 out of 10 times, someone says they have a carburetor problem, it runs bad, it pops, it spits, it stumbles off the line, it doesn't have any power. Oh, I must need to make a carburetor adjustment, and they start just screwing with the carburetor, and it gets way out of whack, and then they get mad at it and talk shit about carburetors and stuff on cars. All along, their timing was set wrong, or their ignition curve is very lazy, or something's broken, or it's a cheap distributor, and the ignition curve's flying way off the scales and pinging and popping and backfiring. What is an ignition curve, and why does it matter? Ignition curve refers to the advance of your timing. You've heard us talk about this before, and if you use the timing light, you've seen it. You point a timing light at your harmonic balancer, you watch where it's sitting, you rev the engine up, it moves, it goes forward, it goes more degrees before top dead center. It advances the spark. By the way, this is a good thing to do before you install your distributor. Take it apart and make sure everything's right. Even from the big name brands, we've had distributors and stuff show up that were wrong, or like stuff rolling around inside and they get caught. So before you install these, take them apart, spin them, make sure everything's happy, make sure nothing's weird, and make sure everything's working. What's happening when you rev your engine up is you have these weights right here. Centrifugal force is acting on these weights as they speed up, and they are opening. And what that's doing is advancing your timing. As you can see, that plate right here, this guy, is moving forward, although my hand on the shaft is not. As they speed up, the centrifugal force pulls these weights out and it advances your timing. This is called mechanical advance, because this is mechanical. Now you also have vacuum advance. Watch this right here. This is your Hall effect sensor. This is reading essentially those, we saw the reluctor wheel on that one, all the 8 points represent the top of 8 cylinders. It's inside this sleeve here, much cleaner design on the Pertronics. But watch it move under vacuum advance. See, I know that might have been a little graphic, sorry if you have kids at home. But what that's doing is also advancing your timing. It's moving this in relation to those static wheels that are hooked directly into the engine. That is a mechanical linkage. Those do not change in time. The little magnets inside this barrel are mechanically linked with no adjustment to the crankshaft of the engine, essentially through the camshaft. But if you move everything around them in reference, you're changing your timing. So why does this matter? Your piston is a piston. It's in a cylinder and it has one job: go up and down. There's gas coming into the cylinder. For the most part, for this demonstration, we're gonna say gas burns at 1 speed. Our mass is not gonna change, our air temperature is not gonna change. This is just a nice basic equation right here. That gasoline charge is going to burn at 1 speed. It's not gonna burn any faster at higher RPM. It's not gonna burn any slower at lower RPM. It's going to burn at the speed gas burns. Also for this example, we're not gonna talk about vacuum advance right now. Your piston is in your cylinder. It's moving up and down, we're at idle. Our mechanical advance is at 0. These springs are not spinning fast enough to be pulled out. They are just chilling right there. Your gas charge is burning at the perfect speed. Everything's happy. We've got good power at idle and down low. We whack the throttle open. Our piston is now moving way faster. But if that gas charge is still happening at the same speed of, this is really hard to do at 2 speeds. If that gas charge is still burning at the same speed despite our piston moving faster, we're not making as much power. Imagine taking a 5-gallon bucket and throwing it on a fire. You have a woof and then it dies down, right? Well, same thing when you fire gasoline in a cylinder. It's gonna woof and die down. It's going to peak. And most of our power, most pressure in that sealed chamber that is your cylinder is at that peak. So if we can time that peak just right to where the piston's at the top and we hit the peak of that explosion, then we have maximum pressure slamming that piston back down in the hole. At low RPM, we're at 10 degrees before top dead center. We're right around that peak. Everything's running just fine. Now, like I said, if we start increasing RPM, that piston moves faster. Our gas charge, however, is still burning at that slower speed. So our peak point, our highest pressure in the cylinder, is already when the piston's a little bit down, quarter way, halfway down, and we don't have that real tight quench up top. We have a larger volume and we're wasting energy. How do we fix this? We need to adjust where that peak of the explosion happens. And if that's a set time, that it takes the same amount of time every time, the only way we can move that peak closer to when the piston's at the top, we need to advance the time that that fuel burn starts. Ignition advance. So we're gonna start the explosion earlier. Instead of firing now, peak down, we're going to fire now, remember this is moving way faster, now, peak down. Our ignition is firing earlier, it's advanced. This is where the whole rotation and the 30 degrees on the harmonic balancer, if everything's a circle, to advance at 30 degrees. When you move the crank, the piston comes down. If I'm explaining this well enough, you guys might be starting to put a couple light bulbs are going off. The point is, as our RPM increases, our fuel charge is still burning at the same exact speed. So we need to start it earlier so that when the piston's at the top, we've timed it just right for the peak amount of power to shove it back in the hole. That is where power comes from in an engine. Your airflow and everything matters too, your ratios, blah, blah, blah. But most of your power is from ignition. And that's exactly where our mechanical timing comes in. You spin faster and faster, and this automatically advances your timing to adjust to fire that explosion earlier and match that peak point with every time that the piston is at the top of the cylinder, regardless of RPM, because it's constantly adjusting up that advance curve. Vacuum advance is something that we're not going to really get in today, but basically as you have lower throttle inputs, you have less fuel charge in the cylinder and it actually burns slower. So in the same sense, you need to fire it earlier, which is exactly what this guy's doing by moving this along our reluctor wheel. So why Apertronics? These are really well made and very easy to adjust. You can change these weights and you can change these springs. You can also put stop bushings in to limit how far it goes. Let's say that's 10 degrees with 0 mechanical advance, and now we've added 25 degrees mechanical advance and we're at 35 total. Total timings when these are all the way out. Also, remember you want to check all of this with this guy plugged. Plugged on the carb, plugged right here. Just make sure there's no vacuum leak. Make sure your vacuum advance does not mess with anything. So our total timing is when these guys are all the way out. Let's say we put a big camshaft in our car. To compensate a camshaft, you need to run more initial timing, which means that you might be sitting at like 15, 20 degrees initial, and you still have 25 degrees more on top of that. You're looking at 45 degrees total timing. Too much, you're gonna start pinging. It'll start firing too early to where that pressure wave of our peak pressure is now racing down the cylinder and meeting the piston on the way up, and it goes smack. And it sounds like a bunch of rocks in a coffee can, or if you had an aluminum piston and you dropped a bunch of BBs on it, if you ever hear that from your engine, you got too much timing. You can put stop bushings in these and limit it. So instead of going all the way out here, it can only go to here. That way you're only gonna run like 5, 10 degrees more mechanical timing. Another thing we can do is change our spring weights to make that curve come in quicker. Our timing comes in even faster with RPM. These are both things you can't do on a Durspark. You're pretty much just stuck. You can, but like I said, you gotta take it all the way down to here and then mess with it and reassemble it and be like, oh, it needs another change, and it's just a nightmare. And they're computer controlled externally, and the boxes suck, and the timing curves are very lazy, and they leave a lot of power on the table because they had to be warrantied. Now I say HEIs aren't the best because I don't know how many times I have come across an HEI that a good way to tell is if you're driving one of these and you pull up and you stop and your idle is really high for some reason and you rev it and it goes back to normal. What's happening is that spring and weight designs and bushings and all this gets worn out, or it's just a bad design, especially on the eBay stuff. Do not buy the eBay stuff. It's bad designs, and they will idle open. They will pull mechanical advance at idle. So when you set your timing, if these are already hanging 5 or 10 into the advance, that means you're essentially setting your initial timing to 5 or 0. At that point, whatever's left beyond idle is minuscule, and you're leaving 30, 40 horsepower on the table because you don't have any total timing. If you have an HEI and it does the weird thing where you stop and you have to rev it and it goes back to normal idle, you have a bad distributor. Otherwise, if you have an HEI, go out, unplug your vacuum advance, have someone bring the engine up to about $3 grand, and look what your total timing is. If it's 35, you're good. If it's 20, you're not good, and your distributor's hanging a little bit open. I think I've seen 4 or 5 HEIs do that in my life. That was the other thing about HEIs, is the stop bushings you literally have to get a screw and grind half the head off. It's a nightmare. And they usually pull way too much timing. These Pertronics and the MSDs are good systems. The Pertronics are really simple. There's also another company called Progressive Ignition that I have on the Le Mans, and you can do all of this electronically from your phone. Those are really cool. So yeah, I'm gonna go drink some water now because I just talked a lot, and we're gonna go ahead and install this in the truck. It should be pointing at 1 right now. I'm not gonna talk about how to install a distributor today. You can check that out right here in the Midget series. I did a really good job on that one. But that's where your power comes from, and that's why you wanna spend money on a distributor, because it doesn't get all wonky at idle, and it allows you to put stop bushings and stuff in that are easy to deal with. I'm gonna shut up and put this in, and we'll make some noise. All right, little progress. As you can see, our distributor is in. I got it pointing where it needs to go. We've got our MSD coil in. That wasn't a necessity, but it's something I wanted to do. Something to note, ballast resistors, if you know what those are, they're these. These are common on Mopars. Chevy runs an HEI. HEIs want 12 volts, and Ford runs a resistor wire. It is a red with green trace wire. There is a red with green trace here, but I believe it's under the dash, and it's printed, do not cut or splice on that wire. That wire is about 4 foot 1 inches long, and it is a resistor wire, like I said, and acts as a ballast resistor. It's a pain in the ass to find. What I'm going to do, I think, is take what previously was my 12 volt input to my DurSpark box and splice it in right here and bypass where that resisted wire is, which I believe is that way. This is important because you want to feed these aftermarket distributors 12 volts, especially if you find an aftermarket HEI. Good luck getting it to fit right here. But if you run an HEI and a Ford, know that you need to feed an HEI 12 volts, or else they will become very unhappy and or burn out modules. And these will burn out modules too sometimes if you don't feed them right. This one says it'll take 8 to 16 volts, but I'm going to give it full 12, and life's going to be a lot happier for the coil and for our distributor. We've got our power wired up to 12 volts to the coil. We did check it. It is 12 volts to the coil. To do that though, you need to take the positive of the coil and then a ground somewhere else. You can't just test right here, because remember, the way a distributor works is it opens the ground and discharges the coil. So positive, negative, ground, whatever. I'll give her a couple pumps here.
Okay, hold up.
Also, I just remembered one more thing. The starter. It was like the wrong tooth engagement or something.
We have one issue.
What?
We're definitely hitting, because we're actually turning our water pump.
Are we? Well, we can take that pulley off for now. Alright, the fun begins. I'm going to go on a limb and say we have no spark. Did I put the rotor back on? I think so. We put a spark plug on the end of our coil lead into the distributor. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we have a real hot spark.
Let's test for spark at the end of one of our wires.
Yeah.
What the hell's happening?
Timing that far off?
It could be, but it should have popped or sputtered or backfired or something by now. If your timing's off and you're trying to fire something and it's not going, you put enough gas down it and enough air, it'll tell you it's wrong eventually. I would not be at all surprised if this was bad gas and we needed to drain our tank. Or it's just out of gas. Alright, let's drain this fuel, figure out what the hell's going on. Made a little noise though. The ignition works. We got the clicky clackety hooked up and dumping it in the fun bucket. Nothing really coming out. Granted, that's not really how these pumps work, but could have just been out of gas. We'll find out. Dad's putting new shocks on while we got it up in the air draining, so.
I'm just loosening them.
Good stuff. So, as it turns out, we were just out of gas. And that looks, I mean, a touch more yellow than what was going in on the other side. Yeah, let's hook this back up, try it again. That's step one. Now step two is timing light and adjustments. Let's make it happen. Okay, so I've got my timing light hooked up. What I'm going to be doing is I use this is the one to buy. Not this exact model per se, but you want something with a dial light because those guys with the fancy digital timing lights and I can click my button and read a digital display. Yeah, well, can you advance your timing this fast to follow your curve when you're revving it? No, you have to sit there for 2 minutes and hit up one by one to find your maximum total timing, where I can just go 15, 60, 5, 40. I'm going to be firing this thing up. We're going to try to bring it down to an idle. It's not really wanting to. I don't know if I'm forgetting about a vacuum line somewhere that might be disconnected or what, but we're going to try to get to idle, and I'm going to be looking at my timing pointer, which I've realized one issue to the boat timing cover along with the boat harmonic is that the timing pointer is right here under this, which is, I can just see it right there. I can't even put the normal pointer on if I change harmonic balancers because there's no mounting point on the timing cover. So ideally, I've learned you want to do timing cover and everything comes off and gets changed to an automotive application. Just use the long block, pretty much. Okay, I've got her dialed into about 15 initial. We're looking at about 40 total, which is plenty. We'll take it out on the road once we get everything together. We'll punch it. If it starts to ping, which we won't be able to hear until there's an exhaust, but if it starts to ping, I will put our stop bushings in. It comes with all this stuff that you just switch out your spring weights and your shims and your stop bushings, and you can adjust all of your total timing curve mechanically. Yeah, we've got an engine that runs really good. Let's keep it alive by putting a cooling system on it. What you got?
Drunk tires.
Just went down to the old tire shop next door and got some of these put on. I don't even know what they are. I figured they look pretty good on here.
Ironically, I found this in your driveway.
Oh, better now than in a little bit.
In a tire.
If you remember, we had these nasty rusty rims on here. Well, I had a whole bunch of these sitting around when I bought that truck. Like 8 came with. So finally put some more used parts to use. Pretty much with the exception of the ignition system, this whole build has been all about used parts and doing it real cheap. So let's get these suckers bolted on there, huh, Mook?
What? Yeah.
Can't say I've ever seen that before. Looks like we had some mice get in the radiator and live in it for a while, so we gotta get that cleaned out. But last step here is hoses. Let's get her done. Alright, we got our hoses on. We've got a spring in the bottom hose to help support it. This is the old radiator from my orange 77. So once again, using used parts. I think the only new parts we put on this were the ignition and the radiator hoses and the belts. Like, we're still running the alternator that was in the back of the truck for 15 years in the rain. And it actually charged when we fired it up earlier. Oh, and tires and shocks. We put new tires. Consumables were replaced. Used carburetor, used intake, used headers, just leftover parts. This smells like mouse shit. Alright, we've got our radiator in. Everything's looking good. She's got her filled up. We're going to mix it up. So in order to do that, we're going to fire everything up. I am going to get a different air filter element because that's very restrictive. We don't like that. But for now, it'll do. This is all we can get today. Hit it. Well, what do you say we go get some gas? Hey, brake lights. It seems strong. Our off idle's a little goofy. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We made it to the gas station. What a thrilling ride.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to my mom and dad for getting me to this point.
Oh, what? Yay!
Blow up the gas station with our exhaust.
Oh boy, great time to be a car person.
Joy, huh?
Yeah. You know what? It's loud, but still not as loud as the S10 was.
What?
Is that you doing that? Hit it. A little lean or something.
Hey, coming right. Stumbling on it, tripping on itself pretty good.
I gotta wonder if something in our carb's not happy since last time. It did sit for a few months. Tuning to do, sounds like. Sounds like we're also out of time for the week though. Dad's gonna go back to work here soon, and this is to the point of a running, driving truck that just needs some fiddling done. So it's time to start fiddling, I guess. So we're gonna end everything here, and we'll be back to finish this hopefully soon. Dad, thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
It was great working with you on this truck. It was good to have you home for a week too from work. Mook, thank you for your help.
Thanks, Mook.
Scott, thanks for stopping in and saying hi last night. On his way back from the bar. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of our Mercruiser F150. We learned a few things about the differences between marine and automotive engines, and that I should have changed a few more things than I did. Our belts seem to hold up so far, so maybe we can just run that setup and not have to change harmonics and all this other stuff. But yeah, I still think the marine application 351, 302 make sure the right rotation direction. They weren't in pairs. If they're in pairs, one rotate backwards. But I think they are a great source for low hour motors. If you guys go onto our website, you can check out the merch right now. It's 20% off. We're doing a full clearance of the store. Head over to junkyarddigs.com and use the code JYD20 for 20% off. We will see you guys right here next week on another episode of Junkyard Digs. Peace.